I've been having a season of bees in my brain, and this little notebook has been doing a lot of heavy lifting. Hello, welcome back to Sapling Tarot. My name is Imogen, and today we're talking about my commonplace notebook, which is like my new favourite thing, and the cornerstone of my soothing and smoothing mental health care, self-care routine. So I started this... Okay, let's tell you what it is first. Okay, so this is an Atama copybook. It's like an A5 size, and it's got these rings in it, so you can like easily take the pages out and put them back in again and like rearrange them and stuff, which is great for me because I like just being able to pick the book up and start writing and like not be worried too much about where things are going to live. Also, if I want to like take things out of it and put them in like other notebooks, it's really easy to do. This is also a notebook that I already had. As you can see, it's already like scrappy and stuff. I've had this notebook for years at this point, and I've just put some like new paper in it. The pens I've been using, if you're in any way interested, are these two Zebra Sarasa gel pens. They're just like a 0.5 gel pen in this kind of like off black colour, and then this kind of camel-y, I think it is actually called camel, kind of mustardy colour. I don't know why. I think it's probably because it sort of matches the cover. I thought maybe I would start using like different colours for different sections, but no, I've just been using this like same mustard pen as like kind of for emphasis or whatever. But then yeah, this kind of off black colour is what I've been writing with primarily. My aims with starting this book, primarily like a memory aid for a whole bunch of reasons. My memory is like not maybe where I would want it to be. But also in this age of misinformation and disinformation and, you know, the increase of AI being the source of so much stuff out there on the internet and even in physical books now, I feel like being able to cite your sources and having an awareness of like... So I suppose this is kind of like twofold points. It's like citing your sources is really important, but then also like the lineage of information in terms of being able to credit your teachers and the people that you've learned from. Like, I've been on Instagram for, I mean, like half my life, literally half my life, I've been on Instagram, and the amount of wisdom that I've gained from so many different people over the years is truly extraordinary. And like, I started making a list of the people that I have been inspired by that I could remember a couple of months ago. I think it's important for me to be able to credit where I get my information from, because so little of my brain is like original thought at this point. It's taken from so many incredible people that I've had like the joy and the love and the privilege to learn from over these many years. And like, it's a bit weird that I'm like focusing on Instagram here, but like it will make sense in the moment, I promise. Yeah, I want to be able to credit where I've got my information from, essentially, both in the importance of citing your sources, but then also just like the idea of the lineage of information. I also think it's a lovely idea to have this kind of repository of information, particularly in an analogue offline space, which kind of ties into one of the other things, which is social media feels a little bit like maybe it's in its death throes. And particularly, so I've spent most of my social media life on Instagram. It's been my primary platform for, yeah, like I say, half my life. I like the visual medium, but I also have found so many incredible people and so much wisdom through the lens of Instagram. And I would like to, as much as I can, go back and find some of these things that I've like maybe saved in my save folders and just copy them down and attribute them and have them in an offline space so that if/when it all falls apart, I still have access to these nuggets of information. Also, the final little kind of bonus thing, and this goes on to like why analogue, is because of this like atomer system that I'm using, you'll actually see in my next video, I think I'm gonna like walk you through my new tarot journaling process. But essentially it's like this big Frankenstein atomer journal. And so if I find myself writing down something here that would actually make more sense to be in my tarot journal, I can just pop it in my tarot journal without having to rip anything out of anywhere or copy something down again or do that kind of stuff. So in terms of like why analogue, because for so many people the idea of like choosing to sit and write stuff down is simply not that desirable, which I get, I totally get. I love this whole idea of like the second brain. Like I said, you know, for a whole bunch of reasons my memory isn't exactly what I would maybe want it to be, and so the idea of having this like repository for all of your inspiration but also all of this information that you can kind of make connections between. I am like a Notion user and I have dabbled in software like Obsidian, but when it comes to like if I'm reading or even on like, I don't know, social media or whatever, the idea of like taking time in my week to sit and type things up into a system has zero appeal for me. So in the way that if you're going, I don't want to be writing stuff out longhand, physically with a, you know, pencil and paper, that's the feeling that I get when I think about compiling all of this information and then sitting down and typing it all up. I don't want to do that. So I'm here writing it out by hand, and I've actually been finding it really enjoyable. And then also, yeah, I had this spare notebook, I had this spare paper, I had a whole bunch of stuff like left over from this like Frankenstein tarot journal situation that I've got going on. And so I just thought I would start, and then I've just really enjoyed keeping on going with it. So yeah, like I said, I've been using this very old, cheap Atomer notebook, but then using this like cream dot grid paper, and then I've been like drawing in my own margins. I've been doing them like 5 bases in from the ring bindery bits, and yeah, using these gel pens. I've also been consuming an awful lot of commonplace and content. I've been reading a lot about it. It's really making my brain feel good. We're in like peak special interest territory right now. I would like to find a way to categorize my entries kind of visually, so either by using classic sticky dots or some kind of markers or something. But basically I've been looking at sticky dots online and none of them are correct to my mind. And so I might need to kind of come up with my own way of doing things. I'd also like a way to maybe separate entries a bit more so it doesn't look quite so much like a wall of text. But these are like work in progress. I'm still figuring out how I'm doing things, how I'm spacing things out, all that kind of stuff. Where I've been finding my inspiration for the stuff that I've been writing down has been, so I went through both my personal and my like tarot Instagram accounts. Instagram is like a big theme in this, and it feels a little bit embarrassing to say that, but fuck it, here we are. So I went through both of my accounts, particularly my tarot one, because it's a much newer account. I only started it like July last year, I think. So I went back through all of my saved posts and put all of the ones that felt like the kind of thing that I might want to like write down into a separate folder called commonplace. And then I've done the same on my personal account. I've gone back a couple of years at this point, but like I say, I've had this account for 15 years, and I don't think the facility for saving posts has been there the whole time. So while I absolutely might go back through all of the posts I've like ever saved on my account, because that would be a very me thing to do, that still won't even scratch the surface of all of the incredible people that I've learned from over the years. I've also been going back through my screenshots folder on my phone, the highlighted sections from ebooks that I've read, my Pinterest inspiration subheading or kind of subsection words folder. The tabs I have open on any device, which are so often things like word definitions, that I just keep open because I'm worried I'm going to forget about them, and instead I just end up having too many tabs open. And if that isn't the ultimate analogy for the neurodivergent ADHD, ADHD brain, then I truly don't know what is. And so I've been able to close some goddamn tabs, and it has been delightful because I've been able to write these fucking words down. Yeah, I would like to figure out how to maybe take notes from like videos and podcasts, because my thing with note taking is often I don't really want it to interrupt my reading, listening, viewing experience, because that feels very GCSE English to me, and that ruined reading for me for like a decade or more, and I'm not doing that again. So yeah, still trying to figure that out. In terms of reading physical books, I take pictures of the page and then highlight it on my phone, and then that's as much as the interruption is. Sometimes I don't even remember to highlight it on my phone, and so then I have to try and remember which bit of it I thought was interesting or like worth remembering. It's been quite interesting so I'm like in no way done, even with like essentially my backlog of information. It's been quite interesting though to notice the main topics of things that have been emerging, because I really thought it would be more to do with the things that I consider to be my special interests, so things like tarot or astrology or folklore or crafty things. I suppose crafty things would kind of be hard to write down, but the big topics seem to be astrology, but then people who talk about astrology through the lens of politics or philosophy or kind of quite specific areas of personal development in terms of deconditioning and kind of decolonizing your brain and kind of disconnecting from the like hyper individualistic structures in which I've certainly grown up in. And so kind of moving on from that, like big themes about like collective liberation and interpersonal skills, and yeah, that's been a huge thing, and kind of the decolonial and collectivist ideas of psychology and therapy. And yeah, it's been really interesting to see that that's the stuff that I save most often, and then also things to do with creativity more broadly, and so kind of almost like the philosophy of creativity. I suppose that's the kind of stuff that people write about rather than it just being like pictures or something. And then yeah, like philosophy particularly around relationships and psychology, magic and nature, but kind of to do with like I suppose observations of, which can often be in the form of things like poetry. And then yeah, kind of words in general. I've always been a big word nerd. So my findings so far of having or keeping this commonplace journal is that I've really been enjoying the kind of meditative process of writing things down that are totally unoriginal. It's not my thoughts, I'm literally just copying things down, and that is apparently something that my brain body really enjoys. It's so soothing. I've been quite stressed and frazzled and feeling quite scattered lately, and this has been such a treat. And so I was thinking that I would like schedule a bit of time to do this on the days that I scheduled to do kind of like studying, but I've been like wanting to do it most days, to just jot a couple of things down and kind of get out my pen, get out my notebook and just sit and copy some stuff down. But an interesting thing that I've noticed has been kind of having to feel through this urge to like seek out inspiring content and kind of search for it and yeah, kind of hunt it down in a way that feels quite antithetical to what I want to get out of this. And so yeah, the kind of the urge to, because I'm enjoying it so much, essentially, the urge to go and kind of consume more and to go and go like looking for inspirational quotes and or kind of finding interesting philosophical nuggets or whatever. And while that's kind of lovely, if I did that, I feel like it would make my book kind of no longer mine, because it would just end up being like,
a whole bunch of live, laugh, love inspirational quotes that don't really bear any relation to like me or my life or my values and priorities and stuff. But it feels quite like, I don't know, I suppose like that very kind of consumerist, more is better mentality finding a way to rear its head even in this, where like I didn't buy anything to do this. Although that's another little gremlin that I've been fighting, is kind of, oh, maybe I need new stationery for this, and having to be like, do you though? Do you not have exactly what you need? But like I was saying about the sticky dots, like I've looked at all the sticky dots that I can find and none of them are quite right, and so I just need to chill my beans and not leap into just trying to find reasons to buy things. This is not a column on my special interest purchases spreadsheet, so I will need to just slow my roll a bit on that. And it feels a bit like, so I love the idea of charm casting. If you don't know what that is, it's like, okay, so a charm casting set is where you, in the way that people use runes or stones or something to do some kind of divinatory bones, a divinatory thing, but with charms, often you are the person that assigns the meaning to the individual items. And I think when you find out about this, the urge is to just like go and buy a charm casting set, and that makes no sense because the idea is that you assign your own meanings to the things, and so you build up a charm casting set by like finding things in your life. I'll try and put in a bit of footage of like the things that I've accumulated that still don't feel like there's like enough of them to be a full charm casting set, but yeah, it's like helped me deal with and work through the urge to just go out and like buy the things, because the idea is that you kind of curate them in your own time because of your own life and your own experiences and your own associations and connections and stuff. And that feels exactly like the urge that I had, was like to go out and like find quote unquote kind of inspiring stuff to write down. And I was like, well, that makes no sense because what's inspiring to one person isn't inspiring to somebody else. And do I not want this to all be stuff that I personally find inspiring, so that when I look back at it, it's not just like going to Homebase and looking at naff inspirational quotes on a piece of driftwood or whatever. But it's been really nice because revisiting all of these things, so like going back through saved posts and looking through books that I've read and stuff like that, thinking about what I might want to pull from each of these sources and kind of gather up in that very, oh, what's the word? I have it written down in my commonplace book. Was it florigelium or something? Yeah, florilegium. Gathering of flowers, so like the idea of like picking these beautiful things and collecting them all together, these little nuggets of information and wisdom and inspiration and stuff. It's also connecting with memories of other people who I've been inspired by over the last however many years, that, you know, not that I've found their work or them in my saved posts and stuff, but I've been making these connections, and that is always a lovely kind of sparkly brain time when your brain just is able to make those connections, and it feels really good. It's kind of, yeah, just pulling up lots of memories of different things that I've been interested in my adult life, and, you know, some in my pre-adult life, and that's been lovely. I mean, sometimes obviously, as these things are, sometimes they can bring up kind of challenging memories, but it's also just been really lovely. But then also it has motivated me to pick up books that I maybe like read once and then haven't gone back to, and that I consider like, oh, that's a book I really liked, or I got a lot out of that book, but actually if you sat me down and were like, what did you learn from that book? I couldn't fucking tell you. So I've been able to find those sorts of things, and it's motivating me to pull stuff off my bookshelf or to find ebooks or old PDFs that I have stored in random files on my computer or whatever to go and revisit them. And yeah, that's kind of the nice bit of the sort of wanting to hunt things down and finding things to write down, is this kind of treasure hunting, but not in the kind of consumerist buying way. Places that I've found inspiration, I will link below some particular videos that I found really helpful, but also, yeah, there are elements where it's like, I like the idea of the margins because it makes things easier to kind of see what it is without having to write the whole thing down. Also, visually it pleases me. But yeah, I will endeavour to put some sources of inspiration below. If this is the kind of thing that you find interesting, I will do some like check-ins periodically when I feel like I've gained some extra stuff. I guess while we're here, I will talk you through what we've got so far. So yeah, I've just been making a note of like some of the people that I've noticed keep popping up quite a lot. I made a big list of like the special interests that I can remember having since I've had an Instagram account of like things to look back at. I also did some like swatch pages because this is like a useful reference for some of the art supplies I have. But yeah, so we've got some things about the difference between individualist and collectivist societies. And so this one was like a really great place to start because it's something that's been just like living in my brain since I read it. And this is by Christabel Minter Galloway on Instagram. And she was talking about how the West teaches you can't pour from an empty cup, which is something that I've definitely thought about a lot. It's something that my mum taught me, and like that idea that you can't give when you don't have anything. But then this is just kind of a reframing of it, of like, what does it mean to have a totally empty cup? Do you have more to give, but not in a kind of martyrdom or overextending way, but in this kind of mutual care, reciprocity kind of way? And I thought that it was super interesting to think about. So yeah, so things about like collectivist societies understand triage-based survival, so helping those most in need first. And I think that it's such an interesting thing to think about when you've been taught. So I was, big time people pleaser for a really long time. I still am. To be honest, I still am. I'm not great with conflict. I'm not great with stating my own needs, sticking to my own boundaries, all of that stuff. It's all things that I'm kind of gently working on and trying to get better at in order to be a better member of community, because I don't want to be overextending myself to the point where I then start getting like bitter and resentful of people, which I think is what happens. But then also this, because if you're looking at it all through the lens of reciprocity, you end up having more to give because people are always kind of giving to you as well. Anyway, that's a long-winded thing. She's really cool. She's been writing a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of blown up on Instagram. And I think she's also funding for some great stuff. So I will try and remember to link her below. There's some stuff about like your nervous system under fascism, which is becoming ever more and more relevant to people. This is just all Alice Sparkly Cat quotes from various different posts that they've written about like astrological things. We've got like new moon in Cancer, Capricorn season, all that kind of stuff. But there's just so much wisdom, so much wisdom. Their book, Post-Colonial Astrology, is on Spotify if you have that, like as an audiobook. And it's really good. Black Liturgies is an account that comes up time and time again because they post just like brilliant quotes, and it's by Black thought leaders and teachers that we should all know more of, and they're just like these little nuggets and they're incredible. There's Maria Minnis. We've got this person, Pat Radical Therapist. I can't remember her full name. Comes up a lot. So you've got the difference between community building and clique building. We've got more Alice Sparkly Cat. There's a lot of stuff about community and building community. And it's stuff that I find really interesting because I consider myself an introvert in the sense that I need quite a lot of time to process and I need a lot of time to rest. I don't have an awful lot of like energy, but building community and being a good community member and what that means in different ways is really important to me. And so I am always really interested to hear different people's perspectives on what it means to build community, be in community, be a member of a community, all that kind of stuff. We've got some word definitions, which are all commonplace relevant. So there's that florilegium that I talked about before, sententia, which is just like apparently what you call things like proverbs and aphorisms and stuff, like that's what they're called. And it was like Plato's idea of commonplacing. This was just a word I liked from the book I was reading. Pettifogging, placing undue emphasis on petty or trivial details. Me. Pedantry. Zibaldoni, this is another kind of Italian way of looking at commonplacing. Got some quotes about mortality, life and living. Yeah, so this is what I mean about like lineage of information. So this is from the first issue of Wart magazine, which is fucking brilliant. I recently got some like back copies from it, and it's just been such a delight. And this is by McCoon's Genius, talking about lineage of information. And they say, I must explain who I am, to whom I am connected, and where I come from, so that those listening to me will know the origin of my teachings. To do otherwise would be disrespectful to the many people who have sacrificed their time and energies to teach me these things. And that is the crux of what I was ham-fistedly trying to explain earlier about why I wanted to have this. Just some other words that I am interested in. There's Joan Didion quote about writing being a hostile act. I had a Dead Poets Society moment, and then just went on to write some other kind of classic poems. This one's from a Substack article about embarrassment, which I think is great. And yeah, just this is, again, the idea that this book will essentially be a self-portrait in the end, I suppose. So it's a Czech, someone's name I've never had to say out loud, Czech Palahniuk. Your handwriting, the way you walk, which china pattern you choose, it's all giving you away. Everything you do shows your hand. Everything's a self-portrait. Everything is a diary. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I don't really do longhand journaling. I haven't since I was a teenager, and I have like some fucking trauma, to put it bluntly, around that, so I don't write like that. But this has been amazing, and yeah, this has been doing a lot of heavy lifting, that's all I can say. Do you commonplace, or any version of this, of kind of how do you save or hold on to the things that you find inspiring, or do you just let them go? Like clouds in the sky, leaves on a river, cars down the street, and allow them to be the transient moments of beauty that they are. Or you like me, and the fucking, what's the word? I've lost it again in my brain. This is what I mean about the memory thing. It's real bad and actually quite distressing at times, if I'm being totally honest with you. Florilegium. Collecting all these little flowers, these little beauties, these little gems into a place so that I can come back and look at them and hopefully be inspired once more. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself and that you're doing all right, all things considered. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.